This is one of those movies you watch and then you reflect. You're like, what does the control room of my mind look like? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, mine's probably super scary. You don't want to see this. Much rather watch this movie. That's a fact. Inside Out. So Inside Out's the newest Pixar movie. Inside Out revolves around an 11-year-old girl named Riley. Her family has uprooted and moved to San Francisco. So this is a very stressful time for her, and Inside Out takes place inside the control room of her mind. And manning the control room of her mind are the emotions joy, anger, fear, disgust, and sadness. And ultimately, Joy has to go on an adventure in the recesses of her subconscious. It just takes her all around the world that's constructed to represent her mind. And all the other emotions are trying to do their best to kind of keep her emotional state stable, but it just doesn't always work out that way. Which is so smart. It's so interesting, the metaphors and parables and the situational circumstance that happen to ultimately explain an emotional state. How a happy memory turns into a sad memory. How you're kind of in the zone sometimes and you're just like off your game. The movie does it so well and so smart. The only word I can describe it is genius. This is a genius movie. I love the synergy that all the emotions had in this movie. I love the interaction. I love Louis Black as Anger. Perfect casting to represent anger. And although he's a standout, all the emotions do their job in this movie so well, and the movie has a great lesson behind it. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. You gotta watch the movie to get it, dude. I'm not gonna ruin that for you. What kind of show do you think this is? I found myself laughing so much in this movie, but sometimes it was because the movie was being funny. Sometimes it was just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense as to what goes on in the recesses of someone's mind. You can't help but just applaud the makers of this movie. In that, I feel like adults are gonna like this movie more than kids. It's a rarity among animated films, but it does exist. Seriously, kids are gonna enjoy the adventure, you know? Like Joy's going on her adventure with sadness, and you see all the different lands that represent her emotional states and her core memories, and kids are just going to dig that. But adults are gonna love how this movie explains emotional states. Because, I mean, we're all human beings. We've all had extreme emotional states, and sometimes they downright suck. So it's neat to see an adventure that kind of explains it, where you're like, you know, it's clever. I feel like in order to not like this movie, you have to have no emotions. If you have emotions and you have felt emotions, you're going to relate to this movie. It's an inevitability. It's undeniable. Guys, short review, I get it, but in the end, I love this movie. I love the characters. The premise is great. The execution of the premise is genius. This movie reminded me of Monsters, Inc. if the Monsters, Inc. world was inside someone's mind. I'm keeping this review vague because I want you guys to experience the movie how I experienced it. I really knew nothing about this movie, except the general premise, which you also know. Ultimately, finding a flaw at all in this movie is just downright a chore. Inside Out fulfilled all my expectations and surpassed them, because Inside Out definitely is awesome-tacular. Seriously, it's hard to tell what an instant classic is going to be, but I promise you in a couple years, people are gonna look back and go, yeah, Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo, all the other top shelf Pixar movies that people love, along with Inside Out. All right, guys, so Inside Out, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here,